Well, hello, my fellow students and any other aliens who might be watching this video in the future. What you're going to be seeing me do today is a BFR squat, hand-supported belt squat, drop set of death. I'll probably try to come up with a better name for it in the actual video title and have that be a little bit more concise, but that's what I'm going to call it for now. And not only do you get to see me do this drop set of death, but you get to see my head poking in and out of the frame for the whole time due to my fantastic camera skills. But ultimately, I decided to keep the video because basically I don't want to do this again anytime soon. And I feel like it kind of makes me look a little bit taller, which I guess is supposed to be important to some people. So I'll just keep rolling with it. Now, the only thing that's worse in this video than my camera skills are how bad my legs are going to be shaking after this protocol. So what I did is I wrapped the BFRs around my leg, and in this case for BFRs, I'm using knee wraps wrapped tightly around my hip up by the top of my thigh. That I just hand cranked them tight. I did 3 wraps around my knees and then pulled it through itself to tie it tight, basically maybe to like 50% of the stretch that I could actually get out of the knee wrap because it hurts really bad. And in addition to that, it's also squishing my balls pretty good. That's probably the worst part about this whole setup. So now on to the sets and reps. What I'm doing is I have 100 pounds of weight in 25s on the belt squat, which is not too bad of a weight to start off with. But what I'm doing is I'm doing 100 reps and I'm performing a drop set. So every 25 reps, I'm taking off a 25-pound plate. Then what you'll see me do after I get all the way down to the last 25 reps with one 25-pound plate, I'm going to walk over to a wall right next to me and I'm going to perform a wall sit for as long as I can for max time. So with this setup, I have my Olympic lifting shoes on to slightly elevate my heel so that my knees can translate forward a little bit more. I'm doing this drop set and this exercise technique to specifically hit my quads the best that I can. So if you can kind of make it out on this belt squat, there's a platform that you can put on top of the existing platform to narrow the hole. That's what she said. Is it? That's what she said? I guess that's the opposite of what you want. Anyways, narrow the hole where the weights actually are. So the problem with that is that you can't fit 45-pound plates on it. You can only fit 25-pound plates, but you can bring your stance in closer, and therefore you can let your knees travel a little bit farther forward. And again, that plus the shoe is really going to let me hammer my quads. Another aspect of using the belt squat that lets me stay a little bit more upright, which lets my knees go forward a little bit more, which makes it a little bit more quad dominant, is holding on to the handles there. That allows me to kind of keep my weight back and keep my torso a little bit more upright. Now, some people have a tendency to kind of pull down on those handles a little bit too much and taking the weight off of your legs there and your quads, but kind of grabbing the sides with just a little bit of a thumb on top, as you can see that I'm doing there, kind of prevents that instead of like having your hands on the more horizontal section and then pushing straight down. So now I'm more just using it to stay upright and keep my balance, whereas if I wasn't holding on to those handles, I would have to sit back a little bit more to maintain my balance. So now we're going to get into the reason why you guys come to Intuitive U in the first place, which is to understand the scientific mechanisms that you can point to in order to justify training hard. So what we're going to start out with is the justification and the reasons for using the BFRs. So starting off with 100 pounds on the belt squat and then dropping down weight every 25 reps is not, obviously I'm not going to be using a lot of weight. I'm not using a lot of weight at the start, and I'll be using even less weight at the end. Yes, indeed, that is how the math works out. I use the calculator and everything. So because this is a lighter weight, my muscles, and like I said, especially the quads, which I'm focusing on, don't have to contract hard enough for a metabolic waste and metabolic stress to build up around my quads and legs, especially since, as you can see, I'm really starting to huff and puff, and this is becoming a overall cardio stress also. So if I didn't have the BFRs on, every time that I stood up, my legs would basically have enough time to recover, and it wouldn't allow that metabolic stress to build up. So this leads us to our first reasoning and the first stimulus behind the muscle growth that we're getting after, which is that metabolic stress. So this is an accumulation of waste products build up in the surrounding or the local working muscle based off of repeated muscle contraction. So a buildup of hydrogen ions and carbon dioxide, and even things like lactate that can stimulate growth factors downstream and after this workout is over, that can help you grow not only new muscle tissue but even collagen tissue and blood vessel tissue. So for example, I know lactate has been shown to stimulate HGH production after a workout and as you're recovering from that workout, and that can lead to not only some muscle growth but also collagen synthesis. VEGF, which is venous endothelial growth factor, that can actually stimulate the growth of new blood vessels, and a transcription cofactor called PGC1 alpha, which can actually stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis. So that burning sensation that I'm not feeling in my legs right now is not from lactate specifically, but lactate is correlated to that burning sensation, which is actually a change in the pH of the surrounding tissue environment. So it's correlation, not causation, but still, since there's a lot of lactate being produced, circulating through my system, it should lead to a downstream uptick of these growth factors. The second stimulus that we're going after is the creation of a hypoxic environment, or in other words, a low oxygen environment. This leads to a recruitment of higher threshold more anaerobic muscle fibers, those type 2, type 2A, and type 2X muscle fibers, which are a little bit more sensitive to growth. I wouldn't really be able to get those with light weight if I didn't get to, or I wasn't using the BFRs. So fatiguing these muscle fibers is going to be a really strong stimulus to grow. And I know I'm fatiguing these muscle fibers because at this point of the workout, I'm shaking more than a $5 prostitute trying to eat a hot dog while sitting in church in the middle of an earthquake. So recently, Rick and I were told about the idea of clip farming. So saying that joke, is that an idea of clip farming? And if you're asking if that was an example of clip farming, does it even matter? Or are you too old to care about clip farming? And if I clip this, is that an example of clip farming? I don't even know. Who cares? Young people speak like idiots. To talk about the last mechanism that I know about BFRs, as I finally am taking them off so it can actually free my balls from getting maybe a third-degree friction burn with those knee wraps, is cellular swelling. So the actual buildup in pressure from the retention of fluid and blood in the muscle tissue and in the muscle cell itself can actually stimulate mTOR, which is one of the steps in the creation of new muscle, one of the proteins that signals for the nucleus to grow new muscle. So that cellular swelling, which is always tough for me to say, is actually a stimulus in itself for hypertrophy. And now, since apparently I hate myself, I'm going to end with a wall sit, one of the classic old school football workouts that has no actual real benefits other than to just see how long it takes for you to quit. Even though I actually do think there's a lot of benefits to it. I mean, I'm still feeling my quads, I'm fatiguing them a little bit further, which is crazy. I'm developing static strength endurance, so that ability to hold a certain joint position, and isometrics are actually really good for tendon health. It can cause thickening of different tendon structures and promote collagen synthesis as well. So I really do kind of feel this from my quad tendon into my kneecap, but in a good way. Not like it's about to shoot and rip off the bone, but like it's working hard and getting stimulated enough to actually hopefully strengthen that tissue in the area too. So not only working for muscle hypertrophy as I'm shaking, but also for some knee health there at the end. So that's me. That's this drop set of death. That's me hating myself for doing this. That was not that much fun, but my legs were feeling it and shaking. and it was a great time had by nobody. I think that poster, West Side poster in the corner, says it the best. Weak things break, so don't be weak. And that's the end. So, class dismissed.